Download the file using the link sent in your email. Save that onto your PC. You can move it to any folder you like. Here we're just going to move it onto the desktop, and then when we visit the desktop we should find it sitting there. This is the patient we're just calling training case. Double click the icon. This will open up Invivo Dental Viewer. The default window which opens up is the MPR view set. We can change our windows to the arch section where we see the cross sections, the axial and the OPG, or the gallery where we can save images for reporting. Along the left side we have the command box for each of our windows, and along the top we have the tools. I like to start on the MPR viewpoint with the lowest slice thickness possible. As you can see, as you raise the thickness it makes it hard to make out individual structures. Change brightness and contrast according to your monitor, and these colour presets are sometimes quite helpful for lifting out certain anatomical features. If we click the volume radio button here, we'll now see a 3D volumetric rendering in the lower right window, which we can orientate in all three planes using the cursor. If we now enable clipping, this will slice off our 3D object at the reference point that we've set on the sagittal plane, which we can change by moving this green bar from side to side. If we click flip, this will simply cut off the rendering from the opposite side. We can change this to coronal, where we'll be clipping from back to front, and change that using the coronal slice. Remove flip now, and that simply again as before slices off the 3D from the opposite side. The same goes for the axial reslicing. I always like to start my CBCT report using this MPR view set. On the axial, coronal and sagittal slices, this line here, the orange line, we move this up and down, and you can see on the top left axial window that's changing the axial viewpoints. The vertical window changes the sagittal viewpoint, which we can see on the top right window, and the blue line will change the coronal aspect, as we can see here on the lower left window. We'll now select arch section. This gives us the planning viewpoints that we're going to use for implant planning. We can change our layout if we like. For instance, here we can have what we've got on the screen now, which is the axial, the panaural and the 3 cross sections. We can change this here to 1 cross section, or we can change it to just seeing cross sections and not seeing the OPG at all. To start off, it's always useful to have the axial, the OPG and around the 3 cross sections. This box here gives us the width of our cross-sectional slices, the interval between each slice, which can be set from 0.25mm to higher intervals. Higher intervals just means really there's more missing information, so I prefer to keep this down at 0.25mm. Here we see the slice or X-ray command for the panoramic image. If we choose X-ray, we see something that's easier to navigate, but we lose detail on the OPG. And this is the focal trough on the axial slice that's relating to this OPG X-ray style image we're seeing in the lower window. So we can use these little balls here to set the line through the roots and set our reslice curve for the OPG image. We now move up to the panoramic image box on the left side command window, choose slice, and that gives us a very thin panoramic slice that corresponds to the central line on our reslice focal trough that we've set on the axial window above. We can now use this to trace out the ID nerve by gradually going up and down on the axial slice line, which is the orange line, and setting our focal line right through the ID nerve, which gives us a really good image at a 0.25mm slice. As before, we can change brightness or contrast to suit our monitor on the view control box. Sometimes it takes a bit of practice to get used to setting the ID nerve. Once you've got that, go back to the X-ray image because this is better for navigation. Move your reslice line here, the cross-sectional line, to the area of interest where you want to place your implant. You can either use the axial slice window or the OPG window. Now what we want to do is reorientate our view set to the angle that we're going to place our implant. So we're going to spin this round using the upper horizontal wheel until we see the other side of the jaw. Then using this orange tilt wheel, tilt it so the implant is in the orientation which we want for this case, which is going to be just slightly off parallel of the 5 for this individual. Once we've done that, we go back and unclick adjust. This should now give us an OPG, which looks a little bit weird because we've just reorientated it. So we can now orientate that back in exactly the same way we did before by taking the focal trough through the central axis of the roots and finding the ID nerve by going up and down on this orange line here, finding the ID pathway on the axial slices, and then adjusting these little dots here to run along the ID nerve. And this will now give us a really good image of the ID nerve in the area that we want to place our implant. Of course, we can no longer see the molar tooth because this is a 2mm slice, which is not now going through the molar roots. We can do the same on the other side if we wish. Now go back to X-ray, and this helps us to navigate, so we can move the cross-sectional slices now right into the middle, and we now have the cross-sectional slices in the orientation that we wish to have our implants in, at least the mesiodistal orientation. We can now take measurements if we wish to. It's usually good to go to this view set, and so we just have one larger cross-sectional slice. Choose the measurement tool from the toolbar, click where you want to start, click where you want your measurement to finish, and that should now show us the measurements from the crest of a ridge to the ID nerve, and do the same width-wise if we wish to look at what diameter implant is required. And finally, by moving the cross-sectional slice wherever we wish, we can take measurements at any point on the OPG.